Honestly, welcome everyone. So glad that you could join us today. We got a little special treat today. We're coming back to an absolutely amazing episode of Dude, What If? It has been a little bit of time since we've made one of these, but me and Sammy recently had kind of just been hit with a spout of inspiration and some ideas for some characters that we wanted to kind of throw out and showcase here, you know, for the fun of it, because that's what we like to do. That being the case, Sammy, do you want to go ahead and kind of give myself and the audience a little preamble to the character you will be showcasing today?
Yeah, we were kind of, discussing what we would do for something like this, and give us like, instead of just making a dumb character, putting things that don't work together, give like a prompt of sorts. And Adam, of course, went with saving throws, make a character that has the best ones. So I attempted to make an amalgamation of just a very skilled individual.
The king of skills, as it were, the king of proficiency, the
Yes.
skill monkeyest of skill monkeys.
I thought that would be fun to try to finagle, which it has been. I definitely could still make this even worse.
I'm sure there might be some ways that we could probably here or there certain items or other maybe potential combinations.
But the idea was someone who just has an answer for anything.
For any and every situation.
So currently I am a Githyanki, so I get some extra proficiency every day. And then I am 2 levels in Knowledge Cleric, 10 levels in College of Lore Bard, and 8 levels in Mastermind Rogue. To explain why, the Knowledge Cleric gets the Blessings of Knowledge, it gives a bunch of extra proficiencies, as well as it has a Channel Divinity, Knowledge of the Ages, where you can choose one skill or tool, and for 10 minutes you have proficiency with the chosen skill or tool. The idea behind that was like, even if I couldn't get proficiency in every single skill, I could still just, if I needed to, with the Githyanki and the Knowledge Domain Cleric, just give myself proficiency for it.
Yep.
If the time arose. For the Bard, taking 10 levels was just all the magical secrets.
Yeah. The Bard is going to be super, super already beefed up. Bard, College of Lore, one of my favorite personal ones. I love lore.
And because of that and the Rogue Mastermind, I have 4 instances of expertise. So I have 8 skills that I have expertise in.
That's amazing.
As well as the ability to take spells from everywhere.
Yep.
So I have 4 magical secret spells that I haven't picked, mostly because the idea is that
you can use them for even more potential skill boosting spells if you wanted, or just obviously anything like that. It's even less at that point, kind of just whatever you want it to be. Really quick, we want to go over some of the actual number crunches of how high your skills are.
Sure. So we're obviously it's a level 20 character. My stat line is 8.
So for this particular one, we both rolled for stats this time around. That is also another thing that kind of gave us an idea of like what type of characters we kind of wanted to build out based off of like, hey, what stats are we maybe gonna roll for this one? So
I rolled okay. Actually, I rolled pretty good. My actual rolled skills was 8 strength, 17 dex, 13 con, 11 intelligence, 15 in wisdom, and in charisma. Obviously, there's 3 odds there, and because you can still take the 3+1s for the ability score origin.
Yep. You can get them. You can bump those up to more of those even numbers that give you them actual bonuses to your modifier.
And at level 20. I'm sitting with 8 strength still because I didn't need it. I have 20 dex, 14 con, 11 intelligence, and then 16 wisdom and 18 charisma.
Nice.
My skill numbers are fun. Without changing anything or doing anything, I currently have a +11 to acrobatics, +6 to animal handling because I'm not proficient in that skill. +12 to Arcana, +5 to Athletics, +10 to Deception, a 12 in History, 15 in Insight, 10 in Intimidation, 12 in Investigation, 6 in Medicine, 3 in Nature, +15 to Perception, +16 to Performance, +16 to Persuasion, +6 to Religion, and then a +17 to Stealth, Sleight of Hand, and Thieves' Tools, and a +9 to Survival. I am I am also
That's a
proficient.
fat skill line right there,
Yeah, the only thing
Severians.
I am not proficient in is martial weapons.
Yep.
And heavy armor. I do also have a disguise kit, forgery kit, thieves' tools, tinker's tools, and land and water vehicles. And a fair amount of languages as well. Abyssal, Celestial, Common, Deep Speech, Elvish, Primordial, and of course Thieves' Cant. So it's a lot. It's a little bit of everything.
That ain't too bad at all. Yeah, a true veritable jack of all trades, and yet, I mean, you're kind of the master of all, almost a little bit. Like maybe some people could be better at it than you at certain things, but you can always contend with everything and everybody. And then multiple of those are like, yeah, you have astronomical bonuses. There's almost no way to fail. Like, especially, were you able to unlock the
Reliable talent.
yeah.
No, I might. That's something I'm thinking of if it's worth taking away some of the bard for that.
I mean,
So I
it
can't
might
roll
be.
less than a
Yeah, I was
9.
gonna say you can't roll less than a 10. Actually, it has everything would automatically be a 10. So it's like
Yeah.
that alone would still make it even more like you couldn't fail anything then, literally,
I
especially
think it's a
like
what, level 11 rogue for that.
yeah, I think it is a higher up. It's like a level 10 or level 11 rogue ability, I believe. It is a little higher up, but it would
Let's see what that looks like if I switch that around.
yeah, for skills and stuff, it's often like a must-have, like huge boom between like a rogue uh, a bard, where it's like if you have jack of all trades along with reliable talent is a super like well-known like uber boost ability, which is like yeah, pretty freaking nutters when
All right.
you combine everything.
I did switch it around. I'm still able to get all of the same stuff for the most part, but now I can't roll lower than a 10. Yeah, that's good.
Where did it get to now?
It just means I can't roll lower than 10.
Yep. Where did it
So
mess with too much to your stat lines a
yeah,
little bit?
I
Like
have
where did it drop
some.
at this point?
So let's see here. I did lose one of my expertises.
That's
So
a little annoying,
I
but
lost it in investigation, and what was the other one I lost? Performance. But I still have persuasion and perception and insight and history and arcana and stealth and
yeah.
sleight of hand.
Yeah.
So it's really
And
just my
now yeah,
investigation.
and the thing being is because you're proficient and you're still proficient in those things, right? Like
Yes.
you're still proficient in basically everything. So at that point, yeah, because you are proficient, you can't roll lower than a 10 on anything now.
Yeah. So at the lowest, my lowest rolls for some of these, like my lowest roll for intimidation is a 20.
Yeah.
And deception is a 20. Athletics is a 15. Investigation's a 16. I can't roll lower than that.
Yep.
Performance, I can't roll lower than a 20. Persuasion, I can't roll lower than a 26.
Yep.
Stealth, I have to roll a 27 every time.
Yep. Every time. Every time.
Survival, 19.
I know there are gonna be plenty of GMs who are gonna be like, oh well, if you roll a natural 1 though,
Nope, doesn't
and it's
matter.
like technically speaking, no, that doesn't actually technically count. I know people want to do that, and I get it. It's still fun. It is still fun to be like you can possibly fail with a nat 1 and such. So, but the actual rules as written, just straight up, nope, doesn't work. Cannot fail. That is amazing. Any other like highlights you kind of want to showcase with that one in terms of any skill or well, we already saw the skill. In terms of like powers or interesting combinations with some of the other abilities that you may have gotten blended together?
Well, what is funny is just because when you have so many skills, it really just messes with all of your numbers for spell casting.
Yeah. Well, you have two separate
Two separate
spellcasters
casters.
with two different primary stats for their spellcasting.
Which is
So
super fun.
yeah, always interesting when that happens.
The the part for me that I like is it really is just the whole point of this is just to be annoying with your skills.
Yep.
I do. What I was looking for here? I want to look at my rouge features.
Your rouge, good old rouge features. You went with mastermind, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can mimic people. I get to use the help action out to 30 feet.
That's always fun. You can literally just like have people get like some advances and shit from far away. We're just like attack a bear. Yeah, you get like Master of Tactics. You get Insightful Manipulator.
I do also like have I do have like evasion as well. So and uncanny dodge. So
I was gonna say evasion, uncanny dodge. Like the evasion part is huge. Like that's gonna come into play as well.
I do have I still have 66 for my sneak attack.
That's good, especially if you're as a bard too. You guys again have the rapier and stuff. Go in there, you get a little bit of extra like melee prowess too, but you got the magical boost and bonus.
Yeah, it's just a lot of it's just skills. This is just hey, I just want to roll.
Yeah. Hey, I'm all about the role play and the skill checks, but
got a pretty decent plus to initiative as well.
Well, I was gonna say you do probably have a decent support character too, with even in 2 levels in cleric, but also with such a high bard. Like both of those, like you get a little extra spell slots, I believe, as well as like.
I have
which
up to
you can use for
level.
obviously like healing word, cure wounds, like especially at the lower levels. But bard gets a little higher too, so it's like you got some great support, and obviously with the mastermind rogue, you can be further back. Like you can be back, and you can just start even forget the rapier, use like a short bow or a crossbow or a hand crossbow, whatever, and you can just start attacking enemies from far away. And then supporting your friends from behind the lines, either healing them from far away or whatever else, or giving them the help action. Like he's like a super like souped up skill monkey, like the ultimate skill monkey kind of, but also a pretty great supporter in combat too.
Yeah, he's definitely not like great at fighting. It's definitely not like his main thing. No. But with magical secrets and the fact that I have access
to you can get some banger spells.
Yeah, now that I have access to the expanded spell list for Bard, you do actually you can pick up some fun stuff. This would be, let's see, just for the sake of it. I can do a lot of things, mostly. Well, I do have like greater restoration and stuff like that from Bard now because they switched it up. I have access to teleportation circle, master wounds,
yeah.
Raise dead, awaken, dominate person, polymorph, psychic lance.
Psychic lance is amazing. People like don't even realize how busted psychic lance is. Like,
yeah,
that shit's dumb sometimes.
Non-detection, of course, Lehman's tiny hut. You just throw a bunch of glyphs of warding around.
I was gonna say, like, you could be like a super awesome trapper too. Like, it's just like, yeah, there is no skill that your man cannot overcome, and for anything else, he can kind of just allow. Like, you have RP, the pillar of RP, and also exploration, like survival, even survival and stuff like that. Like, combat is the only area where you might be lacking slightly, and even then, like, not a ton. You still got you still got your 6d6, I think, for sneak attack. You can still put out some decent damage at least once per round, which is fine if you choose to do that. Or you have a ton of support, which makes it easier, or manipulation and control. Like all around, I'm gonna say this particular what if amalgamation, I would say probably gets like a 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the fact that I still get 2 things to pick from not my spell list. Yeah. Which will be fun.
You could just drop some nukes if you need to. Like you just pick some nuke spells and you just like boom, like right, when you need them. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's a solid 6 or 7 out of 10 for the the king of proficiency, as we would like to say.
Yeah, I like this. I like the fact that of course, I went marine background for the
Yeah, for the vehicle
for vehicle
proficiencies.
proficiency.
Yep. It's like no one ever uses those though. Like
But I
in
will.
terms of like land or even like sea or aquatic like vehicles. Like I always wonder like what technically qualifies as those things. Like do like for vehicles does
Carriages.
well, I was gonna say, does it have to be because but it's the thing, if you know how to ride a horse though, like you don't really know how to like ride it or manipulate a carriage then well. Like I feel like most people kind of just write that off anyway. And so it's like having proficiency, I've never really seen that applied mostly. Same thing for like, if you're proficient with aquatic vehicles, obviously we're talking about, boats, ships, uh, whatever else, I guess. But it's like, yeah, most of the time I feel like it's not really as applicable, but it's still funny that you were able to get like so many freaking proficiencies of almost every goddamn skill.
Yeah, a cart, chariot, carriage, a
Yeah.
sled, a wagon.
It's weird because it's that I've never seen those
I can
like
also
that
sell
applied.
I can also sell warships.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like, but it's
Um
like normally you have like a crew to do that overall
well, yeah,
for
you
you. Where
still
it's
need
just
one,
like,
but
yeah,
I know how to direct people and et cetera,
mm,
which is funny. Um Again, it's never going to be used.
almost
Uh
never. Like, I feel like even in a situation where like, hey, you have your own ship. It's like, yeah, but we don't. You don't have water vehicle proficiency. It's like, well, I mean.
lame.
Then I'm afraid that you cannot sail this ship, my friend. You are beached. And it's like, oh, all right.
Well, yeah, you just have to hire a crew.
I mean, that's usually what happens, I feel like, overall. Because yeah, it's like, I guess maybe if it was more of a primary, like aquatic campaign or adventure where like you guys are pirates or sailors or whatever, it would be like, yeah, you guys all would just get, sea
Well, to be fair,
vehicle
I
proficiency.
believe if you pick pirate and stuff like that, you do get those
Yeah.
proficiencies.
But it's always just like, why would you? Because it's probably never really going to come into play, which is unfortunate. But also, I get it. I understand why. Because yeah, it is kind of a thing where yeah, it's like you kind of write it off where oh, you can't go anywhere or do anything if you don't have this proficiency, even though you kind of need to be able to go places. But all right,
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, I also do have, I also can play an instrument and I know how to play 3 dragon antes. So,
Ah,
these
yes,
are all really
yes.
important things
Oh,
that
very
you have to
important thing. I
do.
mean, hey, you can make some big buco dollars or coins rather with some 3 Dragon Ante tournaments, my man. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
real fun game. We played that in real life, as a matter of fact. I got it sitting right over there, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
It's a fun game. Anything else you'd like to showcase for your boy?
Well, I'll just make money by being able to play. I always roll a 20 on performance. So I'll just be good.
Yeah, you are just the ultimate entertainer, the ultimate just everything. I mean, hell, you could just scam people out of all kinds of stuff
Oh
because
yeah.
they would never be able to tell you were lying at all.
Also, like, how often is someone going to notice me pick their pocket when they shake my hand if I roll a plus 27? It's literally 27 by default.
There's almost no human person who can do that. Like even the highest like wizards or druids
If I
might
roll a
still
20 on the
have.
die, I can roll almost a 40.
Yeah, like it's kind of there's almost no way. All right, yeah, what is the name of this particularly charismatic, skillful individual?
Yeah, this get the Yankee. I went with VROS.
VROS.
VROS. Kind of I was just using the generator and
Yeah,
I'll be honest,
VROS.
I like it.
It's not bad. VROS, I like
He
it.
needs some sort of like he would need some sort of like title.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
stage name
Well, I
or
was gonna
something.
say, what would be what would obviously you could go with the pretty mundane route of like Varos the Magnificent or
Yeah.
uh the Varos the Valorous or
There's something like
like
that, yeah.
something that really rolls off the tongue well, has good, we absolutely love good diction here at the Arcane Archive. Let's see then. Did you use any items at all to offset that, by the way?
Not really. The best thing I grabbed was Serpent Scale Mail because it allows you to add your full dex
That's
and
good.
you don't get disadvantage on stealth checks. And because I only have up to medium armor, that was probably the best I had at my ability
What's
side.
your
I'm sitting,
AC at this point?
with a shield 21.
Okay, that's good.
And
That
then I
works.
also
Goddamn.
Ring of Spell Storing. I found that anytime I play a bard or a class,
Sorcerer, yeah.
especially like with bard
Warlock.
because of like you're gonna want to have some like extra heals if you don't, because you're very much a support class.
Yep. Honestly,
Having
basically
a
all the charisma casters, like Ring of Spell Storing is like pretty peak for them.
Yeah. And so I like having that. I guess I could grab one of the bard instruments.
That would give you some extra
Would be
spells
fine.
too. Yep.
Um, or I don't even know. Are there magical instruments that do other things? I have no idea.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I wonder. It definitely makes me wonder though, like the one item, like the what are the living hands or whatever, or the living gloves, like those things also allow you to like tune into you're proficient with the horn, making ability checks, you double your proficiency bonus. So yeah, if you get like a pair of living gloves for like a specific kind of task or something, you could then double your proficiency bonus even more potentially for that check. Like,
Oh. Oh wow, yeah.
yeah. So if you took like living gloves, uh
Does that stack?
I feel like it would have to, because it says you are, yeah, so you are proficient with the and when you make an ability check using them, you add double your proficiency bonus to the check instead of your normal proficiency bonus. So like whatever your normal proficiency bonus is, you would add double that. So if you're already like expertise and it's already like a plus whatever, you would add on top of that, at least rules as written anyway. Because it specifically says you add double your proficiency bonus to check instead of your normal bonus. And expertise is technically just your proficiency bonus, but already, bumped up.
I wonder if I took it for Thieves Tools, if I could get a plus.
Because Thieves Tools is currently 17, right? So you would get a 34. Then.
Can you do that?
I mean, oh well, here, equip it real quick and see. I don't know if it actually changes.
Well, Thieves Tools won't show up because your Thieves Tools proficiency does not show
well,
up.
I mean, sometimes it might show up with just the dex. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't actually show the bonus number. That's unfortunate. But I mean, again, I cannot see any reason why that would not be the case. Rules as written with the description of the item, it's like whatever your normal proficiency bonus is, you double that shit. So if it's a 17, just baseline normal, it's gotta be a 34. I gotta say,
yeah, it's stuff like that I'm just like, holy shit.
That's what I'm saying. Like you take there are certain items that can help boost and offset things like even more, and it's insane.
Taking things like Eyes of the Eagle to get advantage of my perception.
Yeah, getting advantage on stuff, getting like certain items can just absolutely straight up boost certain skills and things. And so if you add those on top of just the baseline like stuff that you have, good God. Yeah, literally the god of skills.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting yeah, you can do some stupid stuff. There's also the fact like I didn't take anything that would change my skills, which I could if we're level 20, you can grab stuff like that. But yeah, it's you don't really need any magic items to make your skills work, but you can add some stuff that just makes things
even more insane.
Like, a little bit broken.
Oh, a little bit, just a little bit.
There's something there.
This shit is absolutely. But again, a 34. Just a plus two. You can't be. I would even say a 34 would be enough to just mundanely pick a magic lock at that point. Like I would be like, you could again a natural 20. You would roll a 54, dude.
Yeah.
You would roll at a natural 20, you would roll a 54 sleight of hand check or thieves tools check. Like I can't, like, I don't know how. Again, like I said, it doesn't make any sense. It's like like this is a magic lock. It can't be picked mundanely, but you rolled a 54. I can't for the life of me even conceive of how that couldn't work, because even that in of itself is above godly. Like that is a literal miracle of miracles. I'm like, okay, yeah, you absolutely cracked that open. There is no lock, in my opinion, that could ever keep you out. That's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, what would you rate your character, my man, from 1 to 10?
I mean, probably like a 7, 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't exactly, I think, a new concept. People have been building
Oh,
skill monkeys
absolutely not. I
forever.
mean, the idea of making yourself the ultimate skill monkey or ultimate whatever, like the concepts are absolutely not new, but it's still like, hey, I don't think I've ever heard this particular combination before. So
I what kills me is just the fact that I didn't even think about items, and there's a lot of really
yeah,
fun.
there's a lot of items that can help just bolster your skills, like even more so, that can give you a certain effects of like classes that hopefully would stack and give you even more. Like I think there is a certain item that allows you to apply like half your proficiency bonus or something to things that you are already proficient in, or that you're not proficient in, I should say. But honestly, well done, Sammy. I'm very impressed. This is also stuff that we kind of put together relatively recently. Like it wasn't anything that we took a long time over a while to do. Like it was kind of just a spur of the moment of like, hey, we want to try and do another one of these. Let's roll some dice, see what stats we get, and let's see what we can kind of put together. And I think you did a great job. Absolutely. Solid 7, I would say myself, for this character, but
I appreciate it.
my pleasure. All right. Well, with that being the case, we can go ahead and I guess hop into mine that I have prepared for y'all today. Mine is also, like Sammy said, the primary theme that I had in mind when making this character was saving throws. He is the skill monkey. My guy is like the impenetrable wall, the iron wall, the saving throw master. And my immediate thoughts and ideas went to 2 specific classes that are, I believe, kind of the only ones that truly basically augment all of their saving throws, like at some point themselves. That being the Paladin, which at pretty early levels gets access to their aura of protection, I believe it is. And then after that, the monk, which unfortunately their particular ability does come much later on. They get this ability, Diamond Soul, at 14th level. So with that being the case, it is a bit difficult to get the maximum bang for your buck for this particular build, because literally you will only see the full totality of this at 20th level, because it takes 6 levels in Paladin at the absolute max, and then it takes the full 14 in Monk at that point. And so you'll only really get this at 20th level. So I would if at any point anybody wanted to kind of use this build, I would obviously suggest like if you're gonna go into a 20th level like one shot or something, this is the great way to do this, and to bring it. And from the mix of it, like he also he's an impenetrable wall for saving throws, but he doesn't have too bad armor class, and nor are his like attacks anything to sneeze at either, from a lot of the things that I supplemented or offset for him. But I went with specifically a hill dwarf for the race. So he gets a bonus to, his poison resistance and immunities and shit, which is great. He also gets some other aspects and bonuses, which is nice, that I felt just fit well for this character. The Paladin at level 6, you get access only to 2nd level spells. And you get specifically 4 first level spell slots and 2 second level at this point. Nothing too huge or big, but I went specifically with the subclass Oath of the Ancients. Because my initial thought was to maybe even offset the defense even more so with like magic resistance. Because they're like, because at like 7th level, I think it is, like the paladin gets access to their aura benefit, which is like Aura of the Ancients, where you and anyone in your aura, you take half damage from spells.
Yeah,
Just
or of warding.
yeah, or of warding. Just any spell that hits you, you take half damage from that. Doesn't necessarily specifically like connect to the saving throw bonuses, but it's still a way of literally offsetting a lot of high damage that you'll take, you know, from saving throws.
Considering that most spells that are AoE or like any
that,
AoE spell
or just
throw.
that do a shit ton of damage a lot of the time are also saving throws.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, again, I decided instead. So if you wanted to, you could, again, I guess, choose to take 1 level away from Monk to make it 13 and then bump the Paladin up to 7 to get this. Really your own personal matter of your preference. I decided I wanted to actually focus on the saving throws themselves overall to just get the maximum benefit I could think of for like all of them at once for the saving throws, and not necessarily just in regards to spells, because as we know, there are many abilities and many effects in this game that are not spell-based, that can do a shit ton of damage and require you to make saving throws. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go with just with the saving throw itself. But that being the case, yes, I went 6 levels Paladin, 14 into Monk. For the subclass for Monk, I went with Kinsei. Keeping kind of in line, I felt like Kinsei was the one that would mesh and synergize the best with Paladin, because it literally is kind of the same as Paladin, where Kinsei's you get to utilize multiple weapons, but turn them into monk weapons so that you don't need to use your strength for certain weapons. That is why I specifically am referring to long swords and other stuff like that, and warhammers. So you can literally use long swords and warhammers with your dexterity mods instead of strength. I think I told before, like my stats that I rolled initially for this character were 17, 16, 15, 17, 16, 15, 14, 10, and 9. So I rolled pretty fucking amazing for these particular stat lines. And so I put 17 into dexterity initially. I put 16 into wisdom, 15 into charisma, 14 into con, 10 to intelligence, and 9 into strength. And then with the stat boosters and everything, as leveled up at level 20, I am sitting pretty with a 20 in dexterity, 16 in con, 18 in wisdom, 18 in charisma, 10 in intelligence, and strength in 9, or 9 in strength. So yeah, intelligence and strength, either of one are really things that I needed, and so I did kind of have to dump stat the 2 of them. Still not terrible or bad, of course, especially because even with that, the bonuses you get to your saving throws offsets that. So it's like with strength, the only really thing that you maybe miss out on with having a low strength, if you're not like a strength-based combat fighter, is your saving throws for the most part. Because you don't know, or maybe I guess athletics, but even athletics, you can usually supplement that with acrobatics, again, unless you're trying to grapple someone, which most of the time, if you're not a strength-based character anyway, you're not really going to be grappling people in a mundane or physical manner. That being the case, though, going up, there are a number of other features. Not a lot, though. Like the Kinsei Monk, we kind of talked about this, I believe, in a previous subclass episode or whatever, or we at least referenced it if we didn't have it one specifically focused on the Kinsei. But they're very just simplistic and straightforward. They are like the fighters of monk class, you know, where they just become really good at using a myriad of freaking weapons. Now, to be fair, again, like the biggest appeal of this was the fact that I wanted to, as a monk, you kind of have to put more into dexterity. to maximize the thing. Like you can still use your unarmed strikes for strength with monk, but you lose out on so much other stuff, like your dexterity, or sorry, your armor class, for instance. Like that is affected by your dex. And so choosing instead to like use strength instead of dex for your primary just like stat for like combat doesn't really make sense, because you can also make yourself better offensively and defensively with just the one stat. So obviously you want to focus on that stat, which is why I was like, okay, the issue being though, of course, is that paladins are primarily strength-based. They're not really usually dex-based. But you can use their abilities, their biggest one, Divine Smite, with dex. There's nothing that says that you can't. It's specifically
like the ranger paladin I built.
Exactly. It's specifically just melee weapon attacks that are necessary for your Divine Smite to work. So in actuality, there isn't actually any real reason why a paladin has to be strength-based. So with that in mind, I decided to focus on dexterity. And obviously the only other caveat or conflict, I should say, excuse me, the conflict with these two classes is the other secondary stat to these classes would be either, you know, charisma for paladin and then wisdom for monk, because your wisdom also plays into your key point abilities, as well as it adds on to your AC with unarmored, you know, defense. Once again, because a lot of the monk's abilities can only be utilized without wearing armor. And that's a big thing for paladins, where they don't have anything that really gives them extra bonuses to their like AC and stuff that justifies them not wearing heavy armor, which is often why a normal paladin will go strength and just wear heavy armor to offset the AC instead, as well as obviously because they also want to use like long swords or war hammers, other weaponry that does specifically call for strength as the primary stat for that weapon. And because they also just deal higher dice of damage most of the time. Yeah. But with this synergy here with the Kinsei, you don't have to worry about that. You can make it so that your longsword can be used with your dex, because you make it a Kinsei weapon. You infuse your key into the weapon, and now you have access to it. To be fair, I will say with the monk class in general now, with the release, I believe, of Tasha's Cauldron and everything, you have the what do they call it? The alternative or the optional, that's the word. You have the optional feature of dedicated weapon for monks now, whereas this literally functions basically like the Kinsei does, but just to a lesser extent, where it's you can train yourself to use a variety of weapons as monk weapons and not just simple melee weapons and short swords. Whenever you finish a short or long rest, you can touch one weapon, focus your key on it, and then count that weapon as a monk weapon until you use this feature again. So basically, this can do what the Kinsei can do like one time for like one weapon. But you can keep doing it, which is nice. But you do also have to be proficient with it, and it has to lack the heavy and special properties, and it must be a simple or martial weapon, which is basically every weapon. But that is, in essence, like, you could still do this and use a different monk subclass, but you would just be a little limited in terms of it, along with the fact that I also just felt in general the Kinsei class meshes the best with Paladin because of the other features it offers. Speaking of which, we can go ahead and kind of just go down the list here. For the monk features, you get unarmored defense right away. While not wearing armor and not using a shield, your AC equals 10 plus dex and wisdom modifier. Just baseline at this level, at this point, my armor class would be sitting at a 19 with no other bonuses or anything to it, which isn't anything to sneeze at. You know, it's not incredible or crazy, but honestly, for most like vanilla D&D sessions where you're not getting bolstered or boosted astronomically with items or whatever else, like a 19 armor class, even at level 20, is nothing to sneeze at for a lot of characters. Normally, as a paladin, though, you might have more AC because you would have like plate mail at this point, along with a shield. It would probably be magical armor and a magical shield, which I could technically maybe use. I could find some way around it, but obviously with this ability, it just gives you your natural defense anyway. which also, again, you can't really wear armor because of a lot of other stuff that comes with this class. The other thing, obviously, being your martial arts die. This is a class that you are going to be, you will primarily be using a weapon, because obviously that also is what, because unfortunately, I wouldn't be against like allowing the character to, if they're using martial arts, to still like divine smite with like a punch. But technically speaking, you have to use a melee weapon attack rather than unarmed strikes. Again, I still feel like, because of the fact that with martial arts, they literally kind of turns your body into an actual weapon. Like, I would still be okay with allowing that myself. I don't think it's that, and which would then give you a lot more flexibility and a lot of items and things you could use to increase your melee attacks, or your unarmed strikes, to give you even more like buko damage and other stuff. But for the time being, like, I wanted to stick primarily still with like rules as written to give more, you know, vanilla thing where it's like, this is the version of this that should technically, at least by all standards of measurement, with rules as written from what I have seen, it should just work at any table fairly, you know? That being the case, you have obviously a number of your key abilities, which allows you to do all kinds of stuff. Flurry of Blows is going to be your primary use of your unarmed strikes, which are still decent for the items that I also picked up and everything. They might not be, again, the max damage you can really do with your weapon, but you just get extra damage with that now. Like, you still get just bonus damage that a lot of other people don't have, especially the normal paladin wouldn't have either. Most paladins are just going to have the 1-2 hits, whereas you have 4, like, at max, not including like haste or anything. Your speed increases exponentially, which is great for a paladin, because you can get up close and personal with the monk ability with your unarmored movement. Again, you have to not be wearing armor or wielding a shield for this effect to take place. So my movement is currently sitting at 50 feet. Since I did start out as a dwarf, so my movement would already be a 25, so it wouldn't be the normal 55 you'd get for other like bigger races. But even that is just great and helpful, along with the fact that you get, with the monk ability, the ability to, you can run across vertical surfaces and water now too, which just means that your movement is exponentially higher to get you to where you need to be or where you need to go, which is one of the biggest kind of drawbacks of paladins a lot of the time. Is if there's an enemy flying or out of range of like their melee attacks and they don't have like an item that allows them to fly or teleport or whatever, that is a huge way of shutting paladins down. Whereas this gives you much more versatility and access. You have deflect missiles with a little bit more like defense from ranged attacks with the monk class. And then Kinsei, again, you have pretty cool abilities, again, that offset just your melee at proficiency. You get an ability known as Agile Parry. If you make an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn and are holding a Kinsei weapon, you gain a +2 bonus to AC until the start of your next turn while the weapon is in your hand and you aren't incapacitated. Meaning, if you wanted to exchange one of your weapon attacks for an unarmed strike, you still do probably decent damage, but on top of that, you then boost your defense. So it's literally like if you needed to get a little bit higher defense, like you could instead choose to go just full-on assault offense, or be a little bit more defensive while still having some, while just lessening your maximum damage output just a little bit. Not a ton, but a bit. And it's again, great versatility, and you have some options there. You also have Kinsei Shot. You can use a bonus action on your turn to make range attacks with a Kinsei weapon, deal an extra 1d4 damage of the weapon's type until the end of the current turn. So again, if you're in this particular instance, you also have access to more long-range weapons, or you have more of an incentive. And so, yeah, I was like, I chose longbow for mine to still have some decent weapons. And then with this, if you're having to use a longbow for range, you instantly can give yourself an extra 1d4 damage to that weapon right there. Continue on, you get like some extra like proficiencies with some supplies and stuff. It's okay, not too bad. I took the optional feature of like quickened healing, which gives you some extra healing for like your key points and the like, which is helpful for your just survivability. You have slow fall now. with that. And at level 14, you can literally mitigate 70 damage instantly. Again, just more movement and allows you to, like, for instance, if you need to, like, as a paladin warlock or paladin monk, excuse me, like an enemy is flying, you could do some dope shit like run up a wall, jump off, make like 2 or 4 attacks, and then fall down to the ground, and you're fine. You won't take any damage as long as you have your reaction, which you're not going to be using it much for much else, I would say. You also have the focused aim optional feature as well, which can basically increase your likelihood of landing an attack roll, depending on how much ki that you use. Of course, you have stunning strike. Anytime you hit with a melee weapon attack, you can stunning strike an enemy. Ooh, Sammy, that might right there be the qualifying thing then, because stunning strike, the text there specifically says when you hit another creature with a melee weapon attack. Meaning that I assume it's then counting your unarmed strikes as melee weapon attacks. Because you can do that with your unarmed strikes. Everybody does that. That's how that works. So if it's saying that if you hit with a melee weapon attack, and it incorporates your martial arts into that, then that would probably also mean then you could probably divine smite with your melee attacks as a monk. Like unless for all these years, we have all been somehow misreading this, and a monk cannot stunning strike without actually using a melee weapon, which in my opinion, that would be ridiculous. That would make no sense.
You're talking about stunning strike?
Yes, the monk ability stunning strike.
Where is it on here? There we go. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if this is, I don't know, I don't know if this is like maybe a typo on D&D Beyond potentially, or what, but like, for the monk class, if this is what it says, obviously I'm sure you would just go to, like, you know, Sage Advice, and Jeremy Crawford would clarify, like, oh, stunning strike works for just any attack that the monk does, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the unarmed strikes or martial arts die or whatever are considered weapon attacks. Even though, like, again, though, rules is written here, you could infer that stunning strikes, you know, melee or your martial arts die might be considered, you know, weapons, melee weapons, which if they are, as I said, that would then give precedence for some divinely smiting fisticuffs, as it were. Which again, as I said before, acolytes, that would offset a lot of other interesting, cool combinations that you could do. I primarily stuck with Kinsei, and I still think Kinsei is still the best option for you in terms of like a synergy with Paladin, but it just gives you more leeway to some other like subclasses if you want to go with this same hybrid multi-class. But you know what? We'll continue. You have Stunning Strike, which, as everyone knows, is the bane of almost every GM's existence in any game that it is present in. My key saves, specifically for any of my key abilities, is currently a DC of 18. Nothing to sneeze at. It's not astronomical, but still nothing to sneeze at this level. And if the target is stunned, that means you get extra stuff. And you can do this with melee weapons. So you can just attack with your normal melee weapon, especially as a Kinsei, and stunning strike them, and then get advantage on the next attack. And then obviously they're going to be stunned until the end of your next turn. You just keep attacking them, and you're going to start fishing for those crits. And for this particular multi-class, not even just the Paladin, but even the Monk subclass, you're going to get some meaty, juicy buko like crit damage if you can get it right. So let's continue on at this point. You gain the ability One with the blade, and this is what I was talking about in regards to the monk Kinsei subclass. Your attacks with your Kinsei weapons count as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity. So at this point, if you would have still had a more mundane melee weapon, it's no longer just mundane. It is now magical, just like your unarmed strikes would be. You also, once per turn, when you hit a target with a Kinsei weapon, you can spend 1 key point to cause the weapon to deal an extra 1d8 damage to the target. So you can just, it's literally a divine smite that's just weaker. It's like it's a weaker divine smite where you get just 1d8 instead of 2 for a spell slot. But you can arguably do this way more times because at the same level, I believe, what is this? Level 6. 6th level, you have 6 key points that you can use to just do this with if you want. At 6th level, I believe, oh, actually, no, technically, I mean, the paladin would have the same amount of of spell slots, actually. And although the 2nd level spell slots would give you 3d8 instead of just the 1 or the 2 even from the others. Either way, it's just more d8s now that you can add on. Like, you just get an extra d8 now, regardless, if you want, as long as you have key points, which at max level here, 20 level, 14 levels in monk, you have 14 key points at this point. So you can keep just bolstering that, especially, again, like I said, with crit fishing, astronomically. Continuing on, another obvious abilities of the Kinsei monk is you just keep adding more weapons to your repertoire of Kinsei weapons. I just chose for funsies, I chose a pistol as one of them. I chose a longsword, longbow, a pistol, and I think like a warhammer, just again for flavor and funsies. You also at level 7 get evasion, which again bolsters your saving throw. And we haven't even gotten to the crux of this, again, the main theme of this character being the saving throws. Just wait, I'll let you get there. These are all just the little sugar sprinkles on top for you, little cherries on top. More increase, you also get access to the ability known as stillness of mind. So you can just literally, as an action, end one effect on yourself that's causing you to be charmed or frightened. I also believe with the Paladin feature, with your Aura of Protection, bonus to all saving throws, you might not actually have the ability to not be frightened or charmed. I believe it's frightened. So yeah, so that helps offset the loss of that particular ability of a Paladin, where I think you get that ability at like level 10 or something, where your Aura now keeps you from being able to be frightened. I believe it's Aura of Courage, I think just every Paladin has. But regardless, the stillness of mind helps to replace the loss of Aura of like Courage or whatever for the Paladin. So you're not losing out on that particular thing. You can't help your friends, and it does still take an action to then end an effect, but it also includes charmed along with frightened. So you can be charmed and frightened, but then you can immediately, as an action, end it. Like, so you will never have to have your mind screwed or messed with in that particular capacity. Purity of body, you're already immune to disease as a paladin earlier on, but now you're also immune to poison too, on top of that. Which is also pretty hilarious because as a dwarf, you were already resistant to poison damage and as well as the poison condition. But now you're just straight up immune to poison, and now have resistance, I think, to poison damage now. So it's like you cannot be poisoned, or actually, no, I think you're just immune to poison in general. Yeah, you're just completely immune to poison anyway, which is pretty great and hilarious. You have Tongue of the Sun and Moon, just meaning you can understand all spoken languages, and any creature that can understand a language can understand what you say. And then finally, the final ability that is, again, the whole reason we put 14 levels into Monk in the first place is the 14th level ability, Diamond Soul. You are proficient in all saving throws, and whenever you make a saving throw and fail, you can spend 1 key point to re-roll it and take the second result. So on top of that, now we have the paladin features and all the good juicy little things: divine sense, the lay on hands for some extra healing and survival, the additional paladin spells. You get a fighting style, and I chose blind fighting because it just adds on to more of your area of effect. Like, you can't be blinded now if you're up close and personal with a creature. You can't be, whether you're in darkness or fog, or they cast the blind spell on you. You can still fight and attack them in melee. Nothing's going to impede your ability to fight in melee anymore, really. And you get some extra spell casting, which is nice to have offset. You can use your spells to like put more like your magical smite abilities, where you can coat your weapon in like another smite. You can just bonus action prep that. You can attack 2 times, whatever, in the first thing. Bonus action, coat your weapon, and then for the next round, you can then attack 2 times, and then with your key points, do flurry of blows to attack 4. You hit them with not only your divine smite, but with your kinsei smite, and then with your spell smite on top of all of that. And again, the amount and the potential the potential damage output for this becomes crazy to think about, especially if you're fighting fiends or undead on top of that. Like, it kind of gets ridiculous. You also have Harness Divine Power, which is a great optional ability for paladins, and I absolutely 100% feel like it should always just be applicable. It's another Tasha's Cauldron of Everything supplement edition, where you can regain your spell slots a certain amount of times per long rest, which is just great. Again, I took Oath of the Ancients. The channel divinities here aren't really that important. They don't do anything extra. But the extra oath spells that you get from Oath of the Ancients is great. It provides you with, like, again, like Misty Step. Awesome. It provides you with a number of other things too. It's Ensnaring Strike, Speak with Animals, Misty Step, and Moonbeam are the 4 that you'll get for the level that you'll get up to in this subclass. And those are great, dude. Once again, you you could literally Stunning Strike an individual, cast ensnaring strike on them, and then I believe with the stunned condition, you automatically fail dex and saving throws. So if you successfully stun a creature, you can then ensnaring strike. They would automatically fail. And Ensnaring Strike is way more busted than a lot of people realize. It's crazy. It's a concentration spell, but you're probably not going to be concentrating on anything else, really, unless you want to try and use any of your smite coding spells. But again, with Ensnaring Strike, they are then restrained by the magical vines until the spell ends. And a larger creature has advantage, but that doesn't matter. If you stun a large or larger creature, they would still just fail the save. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, while restrained, they're going to take an extra 1d6 piercing damage at the start of each of their turns, just automatically. And they would have to then make a strength check to get out of it. Like, it's a saving throw at first to resist, but if they fail the save, it then becomes a strength check to try and get out of it, which, if they're stunned, they can't do anyway. They lose their turn. They're just, and again, you cast at the second level, they're going to be taking 2d6 damage. You literally, even the extra d6, that's just extra more passive damage that they're going to take every turn. They're also restrained, meaning even if they get unstunned, all of your attacks are still at advantage at that point. And they're still going to be just like, you can literally just start consistently shutting someone down with the combination of this. Like, this, it's not even fair. It's literally, they don't get to play the game. they could not.
Oh, you're not playing.
Yeah, you're not playing the game. You're literally just beating the absolute dog water out of somebody with this at this point, and without costing any of your action economy or attacks. Again, it's a bonus action to do. So again, you literally, the first round, you spend just trying to stun them, right? First round, you get your 2 normal attacks. Oh, they saved. You use a key point to do flurry of blows, and that's 4 attacks. That's 4 tries with you being able to stun them. Once they're stunned, it's your turn again. They're still going to be stunned. Bonus action, you coat your weapon in ensnaring strike. You get advantage on the attacks against them. You probably going to hit them with one of the two, especially with your bonuses. They're now instantly ensnared. And on their turn, they're either going to take an extra 1d6 of piercing damage. Then you can just go back to trying to consistently stunning strike them again. And they won't be able to make a check to get out of the ensnaring strike. They'll just be stuck taking the 1d6 damage while you are just probably 4 attacks. And if at one point, again, you have automatic advantage now. You don't even have to stun them technically. But once if it wouldn't make, you still could. And if you get a crit, you're still getting buco damage that entire time. Like it's kind of stupid how well that works as you're going. Continuing on, as well as obviously get Misty Step and the other 2 spells which are helpful for it. You again will then get at martial versatility. Yeah, channel divinities. Channel divinities don't really matter. Your oath spells. You get Moonbeam on top of that too, which another great spell if you really need to use it for some extra additional, ranged options. But then you just get ability score improvement and then the extra attack, which is fine. And then finally, of course, the reason we took Paladin for this, we merged these 2 classes together. Aura of Protection. While you are conscious, you grant all friendly creatures, including you, within 10 feet a +4 bonus to all saving throws. It's +4 because it is specifically your charisma modifier. So this could vary depending on how much bonuses that you put into charisma or what you rolled for charisma, right? So I have a charisma of 18, meaning my modifier is a +4. I could potentially make that higher and make it a 20 and then make the modifier a +5, increasing all my saving throws as well as the saving throws of my friends by that amount as well. But I decided I wanted to also keep wisdom pretty high for, both my unarmored defense, so for my AC, as well as for the saving throws of my key abilities as well. For the monk. So I wanted to even them out as best as I could at both at 18. Again, nothing to sneeze at that point. They're both pretty high. +4 is still incredible. And there are other items that you could potentially get that would increase your charisma or your wisdom even higher from there without having to use ability score improvements. So either way, though, at this point, finally getting to the absolute crux of the matter of the whole point of this theme of this multi-class, the saving throws. So because I am a dwarf, I technically would get advantage against any saving throws regarding poison. Probably wouldn't matter because I'm immune to poison anyway at this point, but still, you have advantage on them. I also get a instant +4 to all saves. I am at this point proficient in all saving throws, meaning I have a +6 to all saving throws just baseline immediately. But in addition to that, with the +4, then that means that any abilities or any saving throws have at minimum a +10. All of them. All of them will have a minimum of +10 to your saving throw bonuses, just because of the +4 from Paladin and then proficiency from the monk. Now, I also offsetted a number of the saving throws with 2 particular items: the Cloak of Protection and the Ring of Protection, to give an extra +1 from each of those to all saving throws. Now, you also have to realize this also applies to death saves. Now, technically speaking, the Paladin Aura Protection, it wouldn't apply to the death saves because you'd be unconscious at that point. But technically, the Diamond Soul, it doesn't say anything about that. You don't have to be conscious for your saving throw because it's a death saving throw. And for Diamond Body, or is it Diamond Body or Diamond Soul? Diamond Soul. For Diamond Soul, it says that you are proficient in all saving throws. Whenever you would have to make a saving throw and fail, you can then spend a key point to then re-roll it. So again, that would
That
would apply to death. You would get a +6 to death saves now.
Well, that's good.
And most of the time you only would need, and not even just that, actually, technically with both the ring of protection and the cloak of protection, you would actually get a +8 to death saves. Because each of those gives you a +1. And they also apply to death saving throws. So hang on, let me even just check real quick if the game, if D&D Beyond itself is able to qualify, if they can add the qualifier to it. Yeah, pretty sure that even with that, it's a +8 to death saves. I also just happened to roll a natural 20 right there. So I would actually come up with 1 hit point anyway. But
so that's
still,
is that the only time you roll well is when you're not actually playing?
Literally. That's because obviously it doesn't matter now. There is no bearings. So they're like, hey, boy, I got one on but you just have to take my word for it. I did, I swear. But again, that being the case, let's go into the other ones. My lowest saving throw at this point is a +11 for strength. The next lowest is going to be +12 for intelligence. The next lowest is bumping up to a +15 for con saves.
Holy shit.
So that includes concentration checks for for ensnaring strike, or for moonbeam, or for any of your, that's smite good. Spells, or for whatever else. The next lowest are going to be for 2. That's going to be a +16 for both wisdom and charisma saves. So not only can technically as an action, anybody tries to charm or frighten you, you can just end it with your still mind. It's going to be exceedingly difficult for them to even succeed on that because you have a +16 to your wisdom saving throw. On top of that, now, again, same thing for charisma. Charisma, now, there are very few things, we talked about this before, very few things in the game where charisma saves are really applicable. But for the things that they are applicable to, they are really bad. And you usually want to make sure that you succeed on them, because if you get, most of the time it has to do with teleportation. Meaning, if you are forcefully teleported or, banished, sent somewhere, you're usually out of the combat then at that point. And there's almost no way. Again, you get hit with, a plane shift spell. You get hit with plane shift and you fail that save, you're just gone now. You are not coming back unless you have a means or an ability to come back yourself somehow. But otherwise, you are just gone. Same thing like banishment, right? Banishment, you can come back if someone breaks their concentration in time and you aren't native to the plane of existence that you're on. So if you're fighting in the abyss or in any of the elemental planes, someone casts banishment on you, you go back to the material plane. And unless someone can break their concentration within a minute, you are just permanently gone unless you find a way back again at that point. So charisma saves, when they come into play, are exceedingly important. Same thing for if you want to get baned or zone of truth. Those are both also charisma saving throws. So this comes in handy when you don't really want to be screwed over, Uber-like. And then finally, at max, is going to be a +17 for dexterity saving throws. Along with the fact that, remember, we have that beautiful little thing at level 7 for monks, evasion. Meaning that at this point, it is almost probably impossible for you to really fail dex saves. It's not impossible. You can still roll a 1 and the highest would be an 18. There are plenty of things at this level where their saving throws are going to be a 22 or a 24 for dex saves. But even then, you still technically are only going to take half damage from any dex saves. And if you succeed the save, which is astronomically high with a +17, you'll take no damage as a paladin. That's just crazy, okay? Insane. I could still use other items and stuff too to offset. Again, to be fair, the cloak of protection, the ring of protection, they're pretty, they don't really give that much of a bonus, but I figured I'd just do something simple for it as well, because there are other items that can give you very specific other bonuses and boosts to either specific saves or other stuff, to just give you advantage on all saving throws, I could do that because technically passively, statistically gives you a +5.
Yeah.
So if I took something that would literally give me like advantage on all saving throws again against spells, like I could take like a what is it? I think there's like a literal item called like Cloak of Mystra or something like that. That gives you like a or Mantle of Mistral or whatever, like that gives you advantage on all saving throws or something. Yeah, Mistral Mantle. Let me see here. 5 feet. Oh, maybe it doesn't give you advantage on all saving. I know there's some item that does. There's some item that like gives you advantage on like, if not all saving throws, just multiple saving throws. So it's like there are all kinds of maybe different little combinations here or there. I just went for a more simplistic, just straight raw numbers build to just be like, hey, yeah, it's gonna be super hard. Even with death saves. Again, your death saving throws are gonna be a +8 with this. Like, it's just even if you are somehow brought down, you have a myriad of ways of personal healing, of healing your friends, and even if you are brought down, I have an armor class of 21 along with just my normal dexterity and then the wisdom for unarmored defense, which is 19, and then with the cloak of protection and the cloak of defense, or sorry, the ring of protection brings it up to a 21, so we both have 21 AC. But then I also can use the Kensei ability, agile, defense, to increase that by 2 to a total of 23 if I want. I would just have to relinquish one of my weapon attacks. Speaking of which, for that weapon, the weapon that I chose is, again, very simple, but try and true, one of my all-time favorite weapons. I think it's one of yours too, Sammy, and I just chose a good old-fashioned flame tongue longsword.
Yeah, flame tongue is, I mean, you can't really beat it.
For just another extra 2d6 of fire damage. Now, to be fair, that might not always be applicable, right? There are plenty of things in this game that are both resistant, if not outright immune, to fire damage. But at any point, it's also versatile, so I could do 2 hands, technically speaking. Although I think with the way the monk works, it's like, oh, it can't have 2-handed property. Well, it's not technically 2-handed, it's versatile. I can do one or the other. Like, so it's like, I don't necessarily have to. If a GM wants to make the argument that like, oh, well, you can't do it 2-handed, fine. It's still a D8. It's still 1d8 plus 2d6 plus 5 for the damage, along with Divine Smite. Let's go like a 2nd level Divine Smite, which is the highest. I have 2 slots of those. I can add the Kensei Smite for another d8, which is instantly freaking 4d8 right off the bat. If they happen to be a fiend or an undead, that's another d8 right there. So that would be 5d8 in just one attack, not including if that's a potential crit, which could be a maximized of 10d8 total. Like, or I'm sorry, because the 1d8 would be from the weapon, 1d8 plus 3d8 for the 2nd level spell smite. So that would be 4d8 right there, plus another d8 from the Kensei, which would be 5. Another one if they are undead or fiends, which would be a 6 total d8, plus 2d6. So it would be, on a crit, if we just double the dice, that would be 12d8 and 4d6 on a crit. Like, which you can crit fish by, again, just freaking stunning strike, ensnaring strike.
Yeah, you would,
and that's not even including the you can coat your weapon in other smite spells too. Like, let's go ahead and say we can go freaking there's Searing Smite. Searing Smite gives you an extra d8. If you do it at a higher level, it gives you more. You can do Thunderous Smite, which is another 2d6. So you get 2d6 just straight up from Thunderous Smite, which is the first level. You get Wrathful Smite, which is going to 1d6 psychic damage. Branding Smite, which is another 2d6, which is a 2nd level slot. But, you get extra bonuses and stuff to those too if you use them. So, yeah, highest thing would be Branding Smite. So you can get Branding Smite, Wrathful Smite, Thunderous Smite, or Searing Smite. So, yeah, you get like you do Searing Smite. It also is just a continuous damage as well. Like it's kind of just bonkers. You can do, again, even with this hybrid, like I said, to be fair, to get the maximum benefit for the importance of this, like, but even before you get the ridiculous boost to your saving throws at 20th level, the final level, you're still able to do some, again, pretty like the build up to that, even if you maybe don't start at level 20, the build up to that is still great because you can like this ability, these classes, as long as of course you roll decently. But even then, you would only need to have technically three stats. Again, it would have to be Dex, Wisdom, and Charisma, really.
Yeah,
for this to work.
mean, to be fair.
So it's like even with point buy or standard array, like you could make this kind of work from just a straight like building up thing, right?
Yeah, it would take a while.
I would say I started with Paladin first. I think is the best thing because it gives you proficiencies with like all weapons and shit too, which is what you need in order to do like the Kinsei thing. Like you have to be, you know, proficient. So you get proficiency with all weapons and armor. And then as you go up, it might even be better to maybe start with heavy armor, like as you go, because you would still have like the heavy armor and the whatever. But then once you get higher levels in monk and you increase like your wisdom and your charisma, you literally like a caterpillar out of a cocoon. You just shed that shit and you can now move super fast. You can move across vertical surfaces and water. You can like it's again, it's kind of crazy and weird. And you have so much more other options for flavor, and not for flavor, but even just in building it. Like again, if we want to go with what we said before and unarmed strike, if your GM allows unarmed strikes to be considered melee weapon attacks.
So I looked that up. It is. For all intents and purposes, you don't have to use a weapon for it to be considered a melee weapon attack.
Boom.
It's there's a bunch of like backwards and forwards words on how it should work and how it shouldn't work. Stunning strike works with unarmed strikes. So that's all we need to know.
If stunning strike works with unarmed strikes, then I don't see why your smites shouldn't work with unarmed strikes. Like,
that might be a little bit different because it's a spell.
Well, but what I'm saying is though, again, but it's not a spell though. It's not a you don't casting anything.
Oh,
you're not anything. It's not a spell. Divine Smite is just you use magic to release magical energy into a strike that you use with a melee weapon. And so if your unarmed strikes at this point are considered melee weapons,
yeah, I think you would be able to do.
There's no reason why you couldn't Divine Smite with a fist. You could literally like Dragon Fist from Dragon Ball Z, or just like, you know, it's
the smite spells, like
the smite spells would require weapons.
You would have to use a weapon.
Yeah. But even then, like it's like I said, like it's
because spells are different.
Even spells, like maybe you would have to cope, but even then, I would still argue that if certain things work, like if you could Divine Smite and you can Stunning Strike with your unarmed strikes at this point, I would even be like, you know what? You can coat your fucking hands and feet in this smite spell, and then hit them even with that. Like I would say,
it's not like you gain anything for it because.
Well, here's the thing.
You're actually doing less damage not using a weapon.
Well, not necessarily
because of magic weapons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It depends on what magic weapon you're talking about. Because at this level, depending on what weapon you get as a paladin, you're probably still going to be doing a lot, like 1d8 for like your baseline weapon.
Well, no, technically for you, not so much because of the paladin of the monk.
Well, no, again, monks at this level, you have a d8 for your unarmed strikes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're not losing. You're not losing out on stuff by using your unarmed strikes at this level, especially again, not just that, but they also in a lot of the newer books, they brought out items or weapons like gauntlets or wraps that increase your unarmed strikes now. And so if you can Divine Smite with them and even maybe like coat your fist, and which I would say makes even more sense because you're literally like wrapping your hands up in like, you know, material used to make them even more. I would say if your GM does allow this and you're able to get like legendary items, there's obviously one particular item that is far and away gonna be the choice for your weapon of choice, and that's gonna be the Gloves of Soul Catching. And I believe I've showcased this on a previous character as well, literally on a different episode of this. If at any point you are playing a monk and you get at and your GM is like benevolent and going to give you like a really cool item compared to everybody else, just always ask for Gloves of Soul Catching. They are literally the ultimate weapon for a monk. They just are. For everything they give you. I mean, hell, even not for a monk. Just the fact that they increase your con to 20 or 19, whatever it is, just baseline, in and of itself is crazy.
But for monks, they are the ultimate weapon that every monk should have if you can have access to it. And so if you're allowed to pick a legendary item, a legendary weapon, and your GM is willing to allow that your unarmed strikes
this is an insane
count
item.
as melee weapons, you are gonna be it's crazy again how well these work together. Like again, the initial idea was even just for it to be again the saving throws, but the fact that even just damage wise this thing can be an absolute monster, I was surprised. You know, I was like, wow, this is I know I've said that literally, I think for every episode we've done. We've only done 2 more, but I'm pretty sure I've said those exact words for the last 2. But it is like every time we try to come up with ideas for this, I'm just still blown away by like I come up with these ideas. I'm like, wow, this
actually works.
This worked way better than I thought. Because I maybe that's me even being a borderline pessimist, because I usually try to be realist, but I also have like a borderline, like I'm like, nah, this is interesting, but I don't think it's gonna be. But it's like, no, it all synergizes well with the defense, with AC, with saving throws. Like honestly, even my skills aren't terrible. Like I have again for insight and history, like I took proficient. I only have 4 skills I'm proficient with because I'm not a skill monkey at all, and that's persuasion, perception, insight, and history. Insight and perception are both, and persuasion are all +10. And then history is a +6. Because I took the background of Rune Carver, which then gives me the feat of Rune Carver, or Rune Shaper, excuse me, which then basically gives me access to the Comprehend Languages spell. So even though I have Tongue of the Sun and Moon, I can't read all languages, but with Comprehend Languages, I absolutely can. So I can basically communicate with anything and everyone and understand just about anything and everything. And then I have Rune Magic, which allows me to know 3 runes that give me access to certain spells. And I chose Chromatic Orb for, again, more versatility and ranged attacks. So I have like a ranged spell now. That's really great. I have Disguise Self for literally being able to just do a little bit more RP, disguising oneself. And then Thunder Wave for being up close and personal. If I'm like in a group of enemies, this is like a nice AoE thing that I have. Again, to be fair, the effectiveness of this character would vastly depend and maybe change depending on what you roll for stats, or even if you choose, again, point buy or standard rate or whatever your game would specifically do. Obviously, the higher stats you have, the even better this thing would be. But even at, just the baseline, whatever, I still think that this is a viable multi-class option for you. And I might not have even done it to the absolute like zenith that it could get to in regards to saving throws or other things. Like I guess I could have technically gone with maybe like a Yuan Ti or like a Satyr, which would then technically give me the advantage against spells automatically with them.
Did they ever take that away? I thought they were going to take that away.
No, they switched it in terms of, it used to be that those classes, like, they had advantage against all magic. It was any magic and effects. But then then they switched it to just spell. It's just spells and spell effects that they have advantage. It's not just any magical thing anymore. Because yeah, it was pretty busted. So I could have gone that route too. Which that is another viable thing, because then yeah, you would still get advantage on all saving throws against spells, which that would just increase it even more so,
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
And technically, if you take the OG dwarf, you would then get +2 bonuses to your stats, though. Even more so. I chose not to. That was my initial thought, where I was like, oh, if I do a dwarf, I'll get a +2 bonus to like con and strength or whatever. But I was like, yeah, you know what? No, that's fine. I'll still do them, because they weren't exactly the stats that I wanted anyway. But I kept the dwarf because I just wanted to make a dwarf too, to be honest.
Dude, I love dwarves.
Dwarves are great. I haven't made enough dwarves. I've made a couple, but I haven't actually made enough. And I'm like, you know what? I want this guy to be a dwarf because I think it's cool and it fits the theme of it, in my opinion. But this dude is an absolute unit. Like he is both
I was gonna
wall, and he is the shield and the spear all in one. It's kind of crazy.
What's terrifying to me is if you manage to just like get up to somebody, like if you find one guy, you stun them, ensnare them, and just beat the shit out of them.
They're helpless. They would be
yeah, you have
absolutely
created
helpless.
You have created like a very interesting, what is now kind of screaming to me as like a duelist.
Yeah.
But
He doesn't
now,
have a shield. He doesn't have a shield. He's just, it's
No.
his body. His body is literally like
Yeah.
I theme it like his body is like I call him, his name is Thurdrak Stone-Arc. And his body is like as strong as stone, even stronger actually, to be fair. It's probably more like freaking adamantine or whatever. Like it's like his body is just like literally diamond. Like he cannot be broken, and he just comes in with a flaming long sword that he's just like, ah! And he's a short dude. So he's like Yoda. He's like jumping around, running up across walls and like just slashing and like doing kicks with his little feet. And it's just great. I love the imagery of it. And it's just like,
what's also kind of funny is you're realizing that like even if you were to try to like stop you from being this effective, like say they had a mage or something trying to like shoot you with magic spells, you have such good fucking
I have a long bow, or I have
not just
chromatic
that,
orb.
you have really good saving
Movement,
throws, so they can't stop you.
That's true too. I have ridiculous saving throws. They can't hold person me.
There's an item that keeps you from being able to be restricted or restrained. It's like a magic item. Like spells can't do that to you.
It's a ring of freedom or whatever.
Of movement,
yeah.
or free action, something like that.
Ring of free action.
If you got one of those too, you wouldn't even have to make the saving throws because they just can't do those certain things to you, which makes
I have 50 feet of movement, and technically I could use a bonus action for Step of the Wind to make it like 100 feet at that point.
Yeah, you're gross.
Well, it's while moving across literally any surface, even liquid surfaces. Like I cannot be stopped. And then I have slow fall. So even if I have to jump and attack something in the air, I would just fall and I wouldn't take any damage, or I could mitigate 70 points of damage. So it's like,
dude, between this and the champion fighter death cleric, I don't we're making terrible things.
Like, it's kind of crazy. You know, oh my God, wait a minute. As an action, creature must succeed or be restrained. Complete the same with the individual restraints. Oh my goodness. I lied. I thought initially the channel divinities wouldn't really be a thing. But they kind of are though, because I can literally you could for the first round just do 4 attacks to try and stun the creature. You could then use a bonus action next round to stunning strike them, or sorry, to ensnaring strike them and then strike them. And you can still try to stunning strike them again. You can still try to stun them again. And if it succeeds, great. But then as an action, you can channel divinity for nature's wrath. And as an action, you can cause spectral vines to spring up and reach for a creature within 10 feet of you that you can see. And the creature must succeed on a strength or dex save, its choice, or be restrained. And then it can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, freeing itself. And then the vines disappear. So you could literally stunning strike them, ensnaring strike them with like actual like vines that grow on them, and then nature's wrath them for spectral vines. So now they have technically at that point potentially at least 2, if not 3 different versions of being either restrained or stunned. Like,
yeah, it's just layers
because the ensnaring strike would take their action to do a check. It's not a saving throw that you just make. You have to choose to do a check for the ensnaring strike. You make a save at the end of your turn every time with the nature's wrath, but if you have them stunned, they'll just automatically fail. So you could put on literally 3 coats of like debilitations and restrictions on them, potentially, if they just roll badly like 1 or 2 times, and then they just can't roll at all. They just, except for just the stunning strike. Like if you keep stunning strike them, they would have to make con saves, which they could, because that wouldn't stop them. But then they would still have to contend with the fact they would have disadvantage on, because hang on. If you are restrained.
I love how you're just like, this is just so many levels of.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so they can still make strength or dex saves restrained, but dex saves would be at disadvantage. So if they don't have a high strength, they would still kind of be screwed, disadvantage, and they can still try strength. It would just be a straight roll, but it's still be like you are doubly restrained, meaning even if you make the save for the Nature's Wrath, you're still restrained by the ensnaring strike, and then you have to waste an action to break free from the ensnaring strike, and then I could potentially just ensnaring strike you again. You can just shut someone down with this. Like, literally, you could just easy mode potentially. Like, it would take a lot of resources, or maybe not even a lot, but a decent amount of your resources. But if you get them caught, like, they are caught. That's just dumb. That's freaking great. I'd give this character like a 9 out of 10, honestly. Maybe not even like a 10 out of 10. Like, I would say the only thing it wouldn't be a 10 out of 10 is obviously because of the amount of time it would take to maybe get the full totality of it. Like, you do have to get literally max level to get like
but I
the
mean, that's
full bonus, especially with saving throws. Like, you know, you would have to get to max level with that.
I mean, how about the fact that half of my character, like my character's is worse in that regard. So it's definitely one that I would bring to a table if I already had a high level.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're doing a high level thing anyway, like if you're doing like a level 20 thing right away, boom. Like, then I would say maybe like, you know, yeah, like 10 out of 10, if not 9 out of 10. Like, the only it's armor, his armor class again isn't terrible. Like, it's not. Like, it's 21, and then technically with a 22 if you choose it, like. And then obviously, though, that's not even specifically switching up the certain. I also took Insignia of Claws. I forgot to mention that. I took Insignia of Claws.
Well, you kind of have to as a monk.
To boost your strikes even more so. But it's just like, yeah, no, I would give this guy an 8, probably a 9, I think, out of 10. I think a 9. I would rate him a 9 out of 10 myself. What about you?
You did something. You did it again, bud. You did it again. Between that, I was looking at like the gloves because you were talking about those gloves.
Yeah, the gloves of soul catching.
It was the astral monk or whatever, where you can do 12d10 plus 2d6, and then also
I debated using the
every
astral
turn.
monk first. Like, I thought about using the astral monk for this first, but I was like, it doesn't really like, and it would still work, but it doesn't offer as much synergy as the Kensei would, technically speaking.
No, I like the Kensei pick, and you know I love Kensei monk.
Oh, I know you do.
A lot of people hate Kensei monk, and I love it.
Well, here you go. We got a little bit of a spotlight shine for the Kensei monk here, because it works great with a paladin.
It is
honestly.
No, you did a really good job. It's probably like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 scenario here.
Honestly, kind of crazy. Well, I do believe, unless you have any closing statements there at all, Sammy.
No, I'm just like thinking of how many of these characters we end up making are going to see actual game time.
We got so many. I want it to happen. I really do.
I do really want to play the champion fighter death cleric.
Yes, absolutely. The palm cleric, the death palm cleric. Yes. I would love that too. Like that.
You could just have like, isn't there's a god with a symbol that's just a hand, right?
Yeah. Well, technically it's Bane, I think, actually.
Yeah, he would just do that.
You'd have to be an evil character then, probably. Because
all I think when I think of that is the Black Hand orcs from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, they're literally, he's called the Black Hand. Like, he's like, and so it's like, it would be literally like, you'd be a Black Hand. You'd be probably an evil cleric, and you would be the Black Hand of Bane. It would be great. Oh my goodness. I mean, even the other ones that we made before too, like the armored mutant, or the celestial cavalryman, or whatever, the divine cavalry dude, or divine jouster, like those. We need to find time to actually like do some one shots to then showcase these characters. I think that would also be great for the channel too. I think tell us down in the comments below, would you guys like to see like these characters actually being like, you know, performed in real time, to see how well it could actually work? Because I know I would have so much fun.
Definitely be very interesting.
We need to find some time to try and make that happen, I think, for sure, dude. But if that's the case, you know, thank you guys again once more, as always, for tuning in. If you stayed with us this long, we hope you enjoyed the shenanigans and the fun. Please be sure to like and comment on the video. Again, tell us a little bit about your crazy combinations or ideas, if they worked, if they didn't work, you know, anything else. Subscribe and share the channel, and we will be sure to catch you guys next time when we dive back down into the archive. So long, yo. Dude, what if